So today we're talking ACT English punctuation. I want to go through 4 punctuation rules that are extremely important that you kind of have to know for the ACT English exam. So we're going to try to knock this out in 5 minutes. Let's get started right away. First thing is semicolons versus periods. What you really need to know is that they're really the same thing. They're equal. So I have an example right here where I kind of use them interchangeably. The only difference between these two sentences is the use of a use of a semicolon versus a period. Now, there are some cases where you don't want to use a semicolon, which in this case is right here. So the thing is with a semicolon, you need to have 2 independent sentences or 2 independent clauses. So this is independent clause 1. This is independent clause 2. And if you don't know what independent clause is, I recommend you watch the grammar video that I'm going to do as well. Similar video format, 5 minutes, grammar rules. You can kind of learn what it's about. Basically, it's an independent sentence, right? This is a standalone sentence by itself. The book was great. Standalone sentence, same thing with Oreos are tasty. But the thing is, you don't want to use a semicolon because these 2 sentences are not related in any way. There's no relationship established between book and Oreos. So this is a bad use of a semicolon. It would be better to put a period. But in this case up here, these 2 ideas in this sentence and in this sentence, they're very much so related because it's talking about a book and lessons learned from the book. So that's a good use of a semicolon. So again, make sure that you have 2 independent sentences on either side of the semicolon or the period, and you make sure that the ideas are related. Dashes versus commas. This is the second thing I want to talk about. These are also just about the same thing in terms of functionality. So again, I do the same thing here, interchangeable example where I use a dash versus a comma, same exact thing. The main thing you need to take away from this is that this little portion right here that's separated by a comma or a dash, this is an interruption. So I'm going to call it an interruptive statement or an interruption. What you need to know is that if you took out this interruption right here from both of these sentences, if you just crossed it out, these sentences still work. Like Ali made sure he double checked his calculations. That in and of itself, without this part, is still functional. So that's how you know that the use of a dash or a comma is correct in the case of an interruption. That when you just place something in the middle of a sentence and you interrupt the sentence, you should be able to take it out and the sentence should still be functional. So keep that in mind. That's something that's very heavily tested on the ACT English exam, and a lot of students just miss it. So here's an example of a sentence that does not do what I just mentioned. Let's try to take out the interruption, the however, and read the sentence. If you read it, it doesn't make sense. This is kind of like you're jamming 2 sentences together without any connective statement or transition or anything like that. You need a transition, like perhaps you could put that word "and" in the middle of these 2 statements, but just putting "however" doesn't make it a complete sentence, so that doesn't work. If you want more information on how that kind of works, we have more information on our problem sets for each of these skills in the description below. So I recommend you check that out, or just take some practice exams as well. All right, next thing is colons. These are very simple. Basically what you're doing, you have an independent sentence, as in the example right here. This is the independent sentence part, and then so that's in a square. And then after that, you have a dependent list or idea. So this is a independent, and this is dependent. That's the basic structure of a colon usage. So this is a classic example right here. He needed a number of things, and then colon, eggs, milk, bread, and more. So the main thing is you have independent and then dependent. Just remember that form. You can't have independent and then independent again. In this case, you'd rather have a semicolon. You'd rather have the thing that looks like this that we discussed in the beginning of the video, because you have 2 independents. Okay, 2 independent sentences. These two sentences are perfectly fine when they stand alone without anything else around them. So in the case of a colon, you want to have a dependent sentence as the second part. It's a bit messy. I like to write a lot, but I'm trying to get the idea across. Remember, independent, then dependent for a colon. And if you don't know what an independent versus dependent is, watch the other video where we go through some grammar stuff. If it's not already out, then just wait a bit. It'll be out, I promise. All right, let's get to the last thing, apostrophes. This is something that a lot of students mess up. Basically, there's 2 types of apostrophes you're going to come across, possessive versus contractions. So possessives are very simple, like Kareem's book, right? Or Hannah's store, that kind of thing. Those are the things that you typically think of when you think of apostrophes. It's for possession. But you can also see an apostrophe in the case of contractions. So in this case, there is the same thing as they plus are. You could replace the there and put they are in place of it, and you'd get the same exact meaning across. It's the same thing. So when it comes to, so the thing is, you just don't want to mix those 2 things up. So these are some common possessives and contractions that a lot of students mix up, and you can go through these bad cases or bad uses of how they have been mixed up. So just keep them in mind. The main thing is this is a really bad one. So it's is kind of backwards. Usually you put the apostrophe with a possessive, Same thing with whose, like I'm talking about this whose, but it's actually the other way around with these. The apostrophe does not go with the possessive. So you see there's no apostrophe here. Same thing with there's no apostrophe. So keep that in mind. And again, you can get more practice with this if you check out our problem sets on our website. You can get started with those for free. And also just, as usual, take practice exams. There are some linked below. That's it. That's all we have for these skills. So I'll leave you guys with that. Good luck practicing on the ACT. Again, free practice exams below for you guys to practice these skills. And I'll leave you with that. Peace.